They're in shock, they're very elated that they're well and desperate to come home soon, but the devastation that's around them is really quite incredible.
Confirmation today, the gates will be closed for at least 2 weeks. The form of Newcastle's supposedly international class sporting stadium rather patchy. The culprit? A motorcycle event that, according to some, should never have been held.
And if you think I'm frustrated about this, yes I am, because I believe this community deserves better, and certainly the Jets deserve better.
Especially when the president of David Beckham's LA Galaxy dropped by today for an inspection ahead of next month's match with the Jets.
We don't expect any issue whatsoever. I feel bad for the club that they've had to cancel games because of this.
We can get the pitch ready and playable and safe in the 2 weeks that we've got between now and the 13th of November.
The state government has committed $500,000 to fix the mess, but it wants it back from the Knights who booked the event and pocketed close to $150,000.
What needs to be appreciated here that this is a complex matter, and there are a number of parties to the agreement to bring this event to this ground 2 weekends ago.
The Knights hold the management licence for the stadium. They have a deal with partner West to maintain the ground, but any event needs approval from the state government-run Hunter Venues Authority. It's a love triangle that's quickly breaking.
Look, what I would say to the Newcastle Knights is it is time to hand back this stadium to the New South Wales government. Enough is enough.
And the Jets agree.
My view is that we'd be all better off if we had an independent professional management group at the stadium.
As new grass is laid next week, all parties will head to arbitration. Nat Wallace, NBN News.
Strikeforce Tyso swooped in the early hours of July 1. Police raided 3 Cessnock homes after a 7-month investigation into Darren James Gore and his co-accused 39-year-old Barry Wiseman. Police say between July and December last year, Gore sold 322 grams of amphetamine. Officers tendered papers to the court stating that the accused provided full and frank information concerning his activities as a drug supplier. Police also say that while Gore admitted to being involved in drug supply for more than 12 months, he claimed to have made little money because he only supplied friends with small amounts. Today, he pleaded guilty to 12 counts of supplying prohibited drugs, 1 of possessing an unregistered shotgun, and 1 of dealing with the proceeds of crime. Wiseman appeared via video link and applied for bail. His defence questioned the strength of the prosecution's case, saying the Crown has relied on telephone intercepts and information from Gore. But police allege Wiseman was the principal offender and argued he's a flight risk. He was remanded in custody and his case was adjourned to the 1st of December. Sentencing for Gore will start next month. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It might look like just another stretch of the New England highway, but
in wet weather, it becomes a death trap.
And its claimed warning signs have little effect.
But in wet weather, it has a water flow and pooling problem right on the apex of the corner. People come into that, their cars lose traction because they aquaplane, go sideways, pick up some dry road and across the other side and into oncoming traffic.
Since 2005, 3 people have died on the 2.5 kilometre stretch of the highway at Maitland. Greg Mutton's son almost became a statistic 4 years ago. 2 years later, the RTA released a report on the section.
Basically, it says that the road is way past its utilisation capacity and needs to be rebuilt.
In the meantime, works begun on a 2 kilometre long safety barrier at a cost of $500,000. But a meeting being held this evening aims to get community consensus on the best upgrade option ahead of talks with the RTA on Monday.
People know this road's a problem. They want it fixed, and they want it fixed now.
Tonight's meeting will be held at the East Maitland Bowling Club from 7 o'clock. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
Yes, well, it was built quite some time ago and it's outlived its usefulness. And the main problems in the Buller area, such as the smelter and some of the heavy industry, have now gone. They've closed.
Some might call him crazy, others incredible, but Cameron Roberts certainly is determined.
I'll be doing kayaking, swimming, running, mountain bike riding and cycling.
For 24 hours.
He pitched the idea to me months and months ago and I kind of laughed at him and said, "You're mad."
There's 5.7 million people in South Africa alone that are affected by HIV.
World Vision has joined forces with Cardiff Church, God's House, to help the cause. But the legwork will all be done by Cameron, who'll begin his marathon effort on Saturday morning. And despite what he'll put his body through over the weekend, he maintains it isn't about him.
It's about World Vision and it's about making an impact on those people that are living in other countries that are less fortunate than ourselves.
The ultra-marathon will begin at 7 o'clock on Saturday. For more information, just log on to the website www.244africa.com. Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
A visit by the LA Galaxy's president should have been another positive step in the resurrection of the Newcastle Jets. Instead, the A-League club couldn't escape questions about the state of its home ground. Chairman Ken Edwards says the Jets will confirm an agreement with a turf company later tonight and work should begin on Monday.
It's possible to do this in 24, 48 hours if you throw unlimited money at it. We're not throwing unlimited money at it. We'll do it in a planned and coordinated way.
Galaxy president Tom Payne actually arrived in the Hunter earlier in the week and has seen plenty to justify his club's decision to play here. He's sympathetic about the state of the pitch and happy the Galaxy is involved in the rebirth of the Jets.
We're the club that went out and brought in David Beckham and brought in the best American player in history, Landon Donovan, and re-signed him. And we see Newcastle doing similar things, and we're really impressed and we're really happy to take part.
It seems hard to imagine, but the club president says there's a chance we could see Beckham out on the town with his teammates.
Some of them will end up at the beach. Some of them might want to do some outdoor activities. I'm sure they'll have a beer or two when the time is right.
As Payne got a first-class tour, North Queensland made its way back to Townsville due to tonight's postponed encounter. It's fair to say the title of Fury CEO sits well.
I mean, the reality of it is that we would not have a motocross event 8 days before an A-League game. That just would not have happened.
Football Federation Australia is yet to announce when that game will be played. As for Sunday's Heart Clash in Port Macquarie, tickets will be going cheap and children under 15 will still get in for free. The Jets say they will refund all tickets purchased for the Heart game at Energy Australia Stadium. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. Steve Burriston was unwilling to make himself available for an interview with NBN today, but Newcastle's Lord Mayor and Jody McKay's state political rival was more than happy to take sides.
What she should be doing, instead of attacking individuals, is getting the parties around the table and saying to them, this must be resolved for the benefit of the city.
As the politicians talked, Jets chairman Ken Edwards was the one moving forward. The club announced Sunday's Newcastle-Melbourne Heart clash at Port Macquarie will be free for all supporters, with Jets members to be offered free buses to the game and a reserved seat.
We had the FFA ask us to consider venues in Sydney and Melbourne, but we decided that it was much more important for us to play the game in the region.
Meanwhile, the club has met with the Knights and Hunter venues and is likely to announce tomorrow which body will replace the turf at Energy Australia Stadium, with the process expected to begin on Monday. The Jets chairman is certain the games against Adelaide and the Galaxy will go ahead.
I know the manufacturer, I know the processes, and as far as we're concerned, there's zero risk associated with the method that's going to be used and the turf that's going to be used.
Up at Port Macquarie, the town is preparing for a massive weekend, with the A-League game to be held on the same day as the famous half Ironman. One thing's for sure, the pitch is ready.
The ground's in better condition than it has been for those pre-season matches. It's a really good playing surface. I think they'll be really pleased.
That's one positive for Branko Kalina and his team.
If we can't play at Energy Stadium, I certainly don't mind Port Macquarie because they're very passionate people and supporters, and also, you know, we play there in pre-season.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
It was all aboard the Pacific Sun this afternoon as P&O prepared to complete its 2010 Newcastle cruise season. It's the first year the company has based a ship in the city operated out of the newly built terminal.
It's gone very well. P&O have commented that choosing Newcastle as a home port has worked really efficiently and effectively, and we've got happy cruisers.
Kim Leggett was among those boarding the cruise ship. The Newcastle taxi driver last night took out the New South Wales Wheelchair Accessible Taxi Award.
I haven't been a wheelchair taxi driver for very long, just under 12 months, and to be recognised for what I love doing is just wonderful.
And tonight, she's celebrating in style on the high seas.
We're going to have a ball. Can't wait.
A few glasses of champagne too, I imagine.
Oh, there'll be more than a few, I can tell you that.
More than 11,000 passengers have so far cruised out of Newcastle.
All the cruises have sold well. We've seen about 50% of passengers come from outside the Hunter region, which is great for the local tourism economy.
Over the past 2 months, the 6 cruises have brought an estimated $3 million tourist dollars into the Hunter and are believed to have boosted passenger numbers at Newcastle Airport by 10%.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
We're hopeful that with this initiative by Newcastle City Council, it will see a decline in the number of vehicles stolen within our local area.
From icon to eyesore and now demolition zone, the Surf House site has a colourful history. A new chapter will begin on Monday when builders North Constructions move in.
It'll be probably a week or so just tidying the site up, and then they'll get into it in earnest and build the building. Great.
And this is the vision of development group Sailors Rock, a modern 3-storey building featuring a ground floor kiosk, cafe and public amenities. There'll be a function centre on the first floor and on top fine dining and family restaurants as well as a bar.
It'll be really quite diverse in the building and cater for all tastes.
Well, I think we need it in this part of the world. It's been long overdue, and also it's going to mean that there's lots of jobs created for the family, community, a whole range of different people.
The new surf house will be operated by the Green Group, which runs several establishments in Sydney. It's taken years of debate and delays to reach this point, but developers say they're now under pressure to get the building finished, with inquiries already coming in.
We've had phone calls from people wanting to get married here. That's good.
It's probably a little bit too early.
A little bit too early.
Surf House will open for trade in October next year, just in time for beach season.
It's a path he's walked for almost a decade, and today Roger Priest was taking his final day on the job, all in his stride. Despite having almost 20 years of flying experience under his belt, there's some jobs you just can't get out of. Roger was approaching the momentous occasion with his usual attitude.
Good, great, fantastic. Really looking forward to it.
His wife Pam a little more sentimental.
He's had a dream and he lived the dream. And that's just the most fantastic thing you can do in life.
And with his old flying mates by his side and following a few adjustments, it was time for one final flight. Roger's office offers views many can only dream of, but he's had little time to appreciate them during countless rescue missions. He returned to base with a picture-perfect landing, which clearly impressed many. Before back on solid, if not dry ground, the sense of the occasion suddenly caught up with the 61-year-old.
It's the end of an era.
Roger's flying career began all the way back in 1973 with the Australian Navy on board the HMAS Albatross. 7 years ago, he joined the Westpac Rescue Helicopter Service, flying from both Newcastle and Tamworth.
Memorable experiences. In the 10,000 hours I've flown, no engine failures, just a whole heap of fun and as I keep saying to people, it sure beats working for a living.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
That's unfortunate because he was really beginning to hit his straps, and yeah, we'll miss all three of them.
By his own admission, James Nitties is playing the best golf of his life, but that hasn't translated into success on this year's US PGA Tour. He'll head to the final event in Orlando, Florida, needing his best finish of the year just to retain his card.
I've had instances where I've had the last event to secure my card on the Australian Tour, but this is on a whole new level because it pretty much tells me whether I'm going to have a job next year or not.
Nitty says a slow start to the season has come back to haunt him. Since then, he's made more cuts than during his rookie year, but his performances on the dance floor have been a constant problem.
It's definitely the putting's been letting me down on the weekends, and it's a mental thing, so it's just something that I got to work on.
The last event will be played on the Magnolia course at the Walt Disney World Resort, but the 28-year-old will have little time for fun. He'll arrive a few days early to practice on a course he's never played before. No matter what happens, Nitties believes he truly belongs on the world's most prestigious tour.
I'm very confident that, one of these days soon I'm going to do something really special. So it's all there. I just need to put it all together.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Looking back 28 years, Richard Hoogworth can only marvel at how an event to honour some absent friends is still going strong.
Michael, or Landy Bub, he got killed in a car accident up at Merriweather 28 years ago, and we just had a little event there, each year, a couple of trophies and a few beers after it, and it's just sort of grown from there.
Even bigger when another of Richard's mates, Tony Carroll, lost his life in an underground mine in 1998. Now the Bub Orlandi and Tony Carroll Memorial Surf Contest regularly attracts hundreds of entrants and strong community support. It also raises plenty of money for charity.
The last 4 years we've done Canteen, we've raised probably close to about 40,000-50,000 for them.
This year's event will take place on Saturday at Blacksmiths Beach, giving everyone a chance to remember.
The whole day, it's a reunion. Everyone gets together and, we all have a laugh, and, it's really good.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
It looked and felt like a campaign launch, but there's still 5 months before we go to the polls. Flanked by Robin Parker, who's aiming to be Maitland's first female state member, and Cessnock Mayor Alison Davey, the Nationals candidate for that seat, the Liberal leader made his pledge for votes. Barry O'Farrell was in town for a shadow cabinet meeting, and there was a policy, a promise of a group of specialised teachers for the region.
80 teachers across the Hunter who will intervene one-on-one with students to ensure we avoid those learning problems that are being missed currently.
Maitland is the fastest growing inland city in New South Wales, and 148 days before the state election, keeping pace with that growth is on top of the city's wish list.
People tell us time and time again there are major infrastructure problems here. The growth has been amazing, but infrastructure hasn't kept up with it.
Something Mr O'Farrell claims he can fix by guaranteeing the region a large chunk of money from an infrastructure fund.
We are committed to that. I've said on the record, I've said it in front of 200 people, and I'm going to have to honour it, but I'm delighted to honour it because it's what I believe should happen fairly.
And it wouldn't have been a coalition function without a parting shot at Labor.
This is a key seat. The Premier has been to Newcastle, but has not come to Maitland.
Kate Mitchell, NBN News.
If ever there was a serious business lunch, this was it. The Hunter Business Chamber revealed its new board of directors and announced the re-election of President Brett Derwin.
I'm very pleased to be back and very honoured to serve as president of this wonderful chamber for the next 12 months.
But it was the Minister for the Hunter who stole the spotlight, finally revealing the date for the release of the state's scoping study on the Wickham interchange, November 15.
And not before time, might I add. I think that the community has been very patient with this.
But she wouldn't reveal what stance the government will take.
Well, we've indicated that we'll be working through that renewal steering committee with Newcastle Council to get an Infrastructure Australia submission ready.
Ms Mackay also announced Newcastle will benefit from a newly created environmental planning policy.
This is a particular planning regime that fast-tracks investment and development in Newcastle without obviously compromising on the outcomes.
Madeline Bond, NBN News. Most of these businesses have been in Mayfield for more than a decade, but proprietors say their futures are being threatened by a proposed $30 million retail development across the road. Surprisingly, it's not competition the business owners fear, but the changes the developer wants made to Maitland Road.
They are now wanting to take the parking away on the southern side of Maitland Road. This is going to affect the business owners along this section of the road dramatically.
The group says having parking spots right outside its shops is vital because many customers simply won't walk long distances to get to them.
These shops will just be empty with for let, to lease, vacant. We'll have a nice shiny new shopping centre across the road, but this side will be empty, guaranteed.
If it goes ahead, the new shopping centre will contain a Coles, Aldi, 22 specialty stores and 3 kiosks. The existing businesses say they welcome the development but don't want the RTA to approve any changes to Maitland Road, and they've already started a petition.
Everyone not happy on the street, not happy with.
The developer says it will take the businesses' concerns on board and that it's providing 360 spaces free of charge, adding it's designed the facilities so people are able to get out on the street, not just into the mall. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
The beautiful Big War Park was Sid and Percy's home for 90 years. The brothers never married and lived here until just before Percy's death 2 years ago. Sid passed away in March.
Well, there were two people who lived very much to themselves, although I would say that most people in the community knew them.
Sid and Percy grew beef and dairy cattle on the land, and during the 1940s they grew vegetables for the war effort. But now the land is in someone else's hands. The property, which has been divided into 3 lots, went under the hammer today in what's known as a helmsman auction.
It's a system that enables everyone to operate simultaneously on all 3 blocks at once or cumulatively on the whole lot.
After more than 90 minutes, the 3 properties were sold to 2 locals, including the council's general manager, for a shade over $2 million. Together with the money raised from the brothers' belongings, also auctioned today, the parting gift has provided $2.2 million for 6 local charities.
Their closest relatives would be a second cousin, and they thought rather than, they just thought that they would like to leave it all to charity.
Among the recipients, the aged care centre where Percy lived his final years.
It's very timely, Lauren, and of course we are delighted by the magnificent gesture of the late Barwick brothers.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
The Jets back training and very much back in business.
That's what we've been wanting to do for a while. I think, when you look at our scheduling, I can't remember the last time we played.
That's not surprising given the last week, with turf troubles at Energy Australia Stadium postponing a match on Wednesday and forcing Sundays against the Heart to be moved to Port Macquarie. One player who may not even see any time on that pitch, Lubo Milicevic.
He's got a blister and, it hasn't come as good as we thought it might.
New Zealand international Jeremy Brockie's out for at least 8 weeks, while Branko Kalina's quashed suggestions Brazilian trialist Rodolfo Alemão is ready to step up.
Not at the moment.
No. Kalina just hopes the Jets can break a 5-game goalless streak at the Port Macquarie ground.
It's a home game because it's in our catchment area and in Port Macquarie, which I know we have a lot of support in, but it's, we've got to do it like the opposition. We've got to take a bus on the day of the game, travel 3 hours and play.
Tyson Cottrell, NBN News.
I'm actually excited. I've always wanted to mow, so this gives me a reason to.
Someone in your life's always effective for men's health, and hopefully you can help someone in any way.
3 months of hard work have come down to this. These beasts have been donated to students of several Upper Hunter schools who were given the responsibility of preparing them for sale.
Certainly as a steer competition, it's all about muscle expression and fat distribution. So those are some of the key points that the judge will be assessing today.
It's a fun and exhilarating sport. I love to do it. We love to prepare our cattle and get them going and just everything about it. Like getting your steer to the show day is so good and just important to us to have them looking best on the day.
And it doesn't end with the students leaving the ring. The steer will also be assessed, well, post-abattoir. The pupils were also tasked with breaking in the cattle so they could be handled during today's steer challenge.
They'll then stand them up and use their canes to present them in their best light, so they'll be moving their feet around.
It's the 5th Beef Bonanza to be held in the Hunter, with schools from across the state taking part. All up, more than 260 animals will be paraded, with the open-led cattle classes to be held over the weekend. Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
It's become as much about jazz as it is about dressing up and letting loose with friends.
Generally what we do is dress up in white and see who can get the messiest by the end of the day.
And you look like you're making a good start.
We are. I've got wine all over my glasses, thank you.
Red wine yet to come.
Yeah.
So what have we got going on here?
My hands, I'm getting married next Saturday.
The 7,000-strong crowd at Jazz in the Vines was certainly in good spirits. And that pleased organisers.
It's another wonderful Jazz in the Vines, sunny day. What more can we ask for?
For some, it was an opportunity to kick back. Others just couldn't leave work behind.
Even though you're a long way from the beach, it looks like you're still on duty.
Oh, definitely. Lifeguards are never off duty.
Jazz in the Vines has become Australia's oldest annual jazz music festival, this year turning 18, which means it's officially old enough to drink.
Newcastle's very own Doug Parkinson stepped out of his comfort zone to perform.
I'm enjoying it very much. It's sort of different to what I normally do, which is sort of rock and soul sort of stuff. But it's great. It's a different sort of genre, big noise.
And the power of that big noise was all it took to move the crowd. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It takes a lot to stop Lubo Milicevic, but blisters had left him unable to even lace up a football boot in recent days, leaving his coach all but resigned to losing him for tomorrow's match.
You don't want to lose a key player, but again, if he's not 100%, we're not going to risk anyone because we've got such a heavy schedule coming up.
However, the big defender declared himself a starter late today, convinced he can persevere with the help of pain-killing injections in Port Macquarie against the Heart, in what will be the club's second game in 5 weeks.
We just want to get on the park and get a few games under our belt, and hopefully we can get some momentum going after that.
The coach has told Brazilian trialist Rondolfo he's free to head home, but he has snared former English international Francis Jeffers on a 10-game stint, likely to start against Adelaide in 2 weeks.
People are telling me I arrived at the right time. I think there was a bit going on before sort of I got here, but I've come at the right time and the club's moving in the right direction.
But even he admits his first 10 days in Australia has thrown up more than he ever expected, from the news on David Beckham to that midweek debacle surrounding the State of Energy Australia Stadium.
It's just a bit of a shock because there's no way that had happened in England. But
has it been one of the stranger weeks in your football career, you think?
It probably has, yeah. I'd have to say that, yeah.
Part of it is becoming aware of your culture and also, that comradeship, that these tournaments provide.
It does work because I end up with 5 tests with Samoa and coming from Queensland, so it's real good. So.
It's official. Of all the places in the world, New York is the best city. And coming in at number 9 is Newcastle, Australia.
Seriously? How did that happen?
No way. I don't know about that.
I was a little bit surprised. I was certainly Lonely Planet has in the past come out with some, some unique destinations, and I think that's where Newcastle fits in.
The Lonely Planet travel guide is world famous, and tomorrow the new book will tell everyone that Newcastle flies under the radar. And just to create even more of a fuss, it says we have more to offer than Sydney. Our sun-drenched climate and laid-back surf culture has taken us nearly all the way to the top.
Oh, it's the beach. Look at it, mate. How can you say Newcastle's not good?
9th. I think they're about 8 away from what it should be, I reckon.
Nonetheless, it puts us in a good position to kick some goals. Lonely Planet is the backpacker's Bible.
It's just really wonderful to get people here, and we know once they're here we can sell the place really well to them.
They're saying this place is better than London.
Yeah, well, I'm not.
Maybe we just need to keep the world's eyes off some of our other assets.
Everything is lining up for us and we've got to start believing in ourselves.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
The match was hastily moved to Port Macquarie due to the state of the Jets' home ground in Newcastle, but surface troubles followed them north. Only the second game in 36 days for Newcastle, but their glove man hadn't lost his touch. It took 20 minutes before Newcastle's first genuine chance on goal, but their recent form in that area continued. Former Newcastle captain Matt Thompson was then denied a great chance against his old club. Ruben Zankovic did ever so well to get into space, but it was the back of the net which remained hard to find. The Jets started well after the break, but it was the heart who provided the spark, former Socceroo Josip Skoko teeing up Nick Kalmar. A cheeky chip from Wayne Troy almost produced a result, but Ben Kennedy regained his composure in time to keep his side alive. But there was little he could do about this, as Melbourne secured all 3 competition points. It was the away-from-home game, but free transport and entry to the game at Port Macquarie got the thumbs up from Jets faithful. In all, 6 bus loads took around 260 fans to the match in what doubled as a show of faith in the club's new owner.
Nathan Tinkler has brought a community spirit back to this club, as witnessed by the number of people here today, and we're all prepared to spend our Sunday heading north.
But the reasons why they had to travel still irked some.
You're very disappointed that your own team can't play at their own stadium, and hopefully, things can get sorted out behind the scenes.
I think it was disgraceful the way the ground appeared for us supporters, missing out on the Wednesday night game and today's game.
That monster truck thing coming here, that's just crazy.
That's got to be wild.
This is a football stadium.
And it's almost certain it won't go ahead. However, another motorcycle event called Nitro Circus will be staged on March 12 at Energy Australia Stadium next year, 3 weeks before the Knights' first home game. Although different in scale and setup to the recent Super X event, which damaged the ground, there will be a greater level of scrutiny to ensure it doesn't impact either. The estimated $500,000 repair job on the surface starts on Tuesday and will be ready for the Jets' home game on November 13.
I mean, that's excellent. He's a big, strong, fit guy, and you got to love that.
In the early hours of November 28 last year, paramedics and police were called to Beaumont Street, where 32-year-old Greg Newton had been punched in the head. The blow knocked him backwards and his head hit the concrete curb. He lost consciousness and suffered a cardiac arrest on his way to hospital. 26-year-old Jeremy Beasley has been charged with manslaughter over the alleged incident. In its 4th day, his district court trial today heard from several witnesses, among them Shane Murrell, who had been walking along Beaumont Street with friends. He told the court there were 4 guys in the middle of the road fighting. A guy stepped out on the road and another guy who was in the fight came over and King hit him. Mr. Murrell added he had no shirt on. He came straight over and punched him in the face. He fell backwards and his head hit the curb. After he hit him, the man ran off towards the Kent. Another witness, Jeanette Smith, says she saw the punch from a 2nd-storey window and saw the guy who got hit take a step away. His demeanour was if he was backing away. His hands were down at his side. She added, all I can remember is him coming across with his fist in a punch motion. He, Greg Newton, fell back straight away. The trial continues. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Going, gone. We knew the clock was probably ticking on GPT's time in the Newcastle CBD, but it seems the developer wants to pack up and move rather quickly. This block will be up for sale in 3 weeks. This one too.
It's pretty devastating for people in here.
Just left to rot, pretty much.
GPT Group says a $50 million sell-off is underway. It wants to get rid of the properties in significant strategic parcels that will contribute to the city's renewal. But other CBD business owners fear it will only result in more shoppers fleeing the area.
The people who did buy the parcels of land, are they in a position to develop them immediately? I doubt it. I think we're going to have a bit of a dog's breakfast.
Especially if you own this 4-storey, 40-year-old problem. GPT was meant to acquire the King Street car park and nearby streets. Now council has $1 million project on its hands.
Council has to deal with the car park because it's in a deteriorating state and there's a lot of maintenance required on that car park over the next few years.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
For 1 in 3 Hunter households, the problems are piling up. Overcommitted financially, caught out by credit and skyrocketing utilities, times are tough.
Here at Wesley Mission in Newcastle, we're seeing a 30% increase in the number of new families who are coming to see us for help.
And that's just in the past 6 months. Wesley Mission's new report details the hardships facing increasing numbers of New South Wales households. Spending more than they earn, financially stressed families are being forced to make terrible choices.
They're not able to pay their electricity bills, or if they do pay their electricity bills, they're doing it at the expense of their kids having proper lunches for school, their kids being able to have new clothes.
Wesley Mission and other welfare organisations offer financial counselling, and they're urging people to seek help early before problems compound. With Christmas approaching, families will be feeling even more pressure.
Bleak, in a word. I think things are going to be looking very bleak for a lot of Hunter families.
Last year, the mission helped 450 families. This year, it's expecting hundreds more to join the queue for hampers and help.
It's not a scenario anyone looks for. Meeting the doctor who has to beat your cancer.
I suppose numbing would be the correct word, but then you sort of focus on how it's going to be treated.
And compared to 10 years ago, specialists can now do much more. But Australia's uptake of new technology is still lagging behind other countries.
I think it's difficult too, particularly in an age where many patients can access information very freely through the internet, so it's difficult in terms of advising them what might be best and what is available.
In Newcastle, for the first time, specialists say the click of a mouse can make a big difference. Experts can pinpoint problem areas, minimising the long-term effects of radiation on healthy parts of the body.
Well, from what I've been told by the doctors, it's very accurate. It's got a very high success rate.
But right now, you can only access this special treatment if you can afford it. The federal government wants proof that it works before it's covered by Medicare. The good news is testing's underway.
This particular project that we're undertaking will fast-track the introduction of new technologies and treatments.
But until then, patients will continue to head down the old path.
Surely part of a government's responsibility is to look after the health of the nation.
Nat Wallace, NBN News.
What a reunion. Pat Ferris back amongst his fellow jockeys, and given what he's been through, everyone was happy about it. Mixing it with the racing fraternity at the track where he almost lost his life, emotion was thick on the ground.
It's amazing. It's a really, really good feeling to see him up on his feet again.
6 months ago, doctors never thought Ferris would survive this. Suffering serious head and other physical injuries, he spent weeks on life support before fighting his way back, and it's been one tough ride.
I don't want to look on that home corner where he fell, because I feel very depressed and upset, to be honest.
The support of his fellow jockeys and the racing industry in general has been praised, and with his wife Jenna and young child by his side, Ferris is well placed to claim he's still a winner after the fall which almost took it all away. Jim Callanan, NBN News. Ali Abbas has endured an incredible set of circumstances in life, let alone his football career, and now his form for Newcastle has seen him win back selection for his native Iraq. The last time he played for his homeland was in Gosford in 2007, when he and two teammates famously left their under-23 side to seek asylum in Australia. Abbas leaves in 2 weeks for a series of friendlies with Iraq as his club searches for answers up front after another loss.
We need to start looking for some answers, and we want a little bit more from some players than maybe what they're at the moment giving.
It's prompted the Jets to fast-track efforts to have English guest player and noted goal scorer Francis Jeffers cleared to play in time for this weekend's match against Sydney FC.
Doing everything possible to get him right, available. There's no doubt that he will offer us something different, and that's probably what we need at this stage.
I was lucky to build a lot of great relationships while I was playing here, so hopefully I can get across to people I know and and try and help the club fulfil its potential.
Tackle count restarted and all of that. Look at Sal go again. Junior Sal, no one will stop him.
January 2009 was the last time Mark Cameron got the chance to rip in for the Blues in a Shield game. And talk about making up for lost time. The Newcastle Quick tore through the Queensland lineup in a stunning morning spell. Having been forced to fight his way back after being floored by serious back issues for much of the past year, the former Australian A rep was twice on a hat-trick before settling for figures of 6 for 22 and bundling Queensland out for just 75 in its first innings. The Blues Quick barely had time to catch his breath, and he was at it again after his side sent Queensland back to the crease. Although just as ruthless, this time he had to settle for a 5-wicket haul on his way to the amazing match figures of 11 for 52. His man-of-the-match performance no doubt gives selectors plenty to think about as New South Wales celebrates a thumping victory. Shortland's Jamie Pittman landed all the blows that counted in his return to the ring at the weekend. After a shock loss earlier in the year, the former Olympian easily accounted for his Samoan opponent in 6 rounds, and he'll now concentrate on another bout scheduled for January 5 against an undefeated Englishman.